Hi everybody, Bandicoot Commando here and welcome back to Marble Rivals. Last time, I read Penny Parker's lore story, Tokyo by Night. Basically, it was just about what Penny does really, and her thoughts of everything, how being a defender of the web of life and destiny and having a little bit of small words with the Master Weaver and Spider Zero. But Penny knows that they got to do something because Doombots keep attacking the web, and both Penny and Zero believe it won't be long until Doom himself tries to attack the web. But the Master Weaver is not too concerned. But we shall find out at another time. So today, we are going to read Psylocke's story. Psy. The psychic warrior known as Psy has the mutant ability to conjure a variety of weapons with the power of her mind. Gracefully gliding across the battlefield, this trained ninja can shatter the enemy's defenses with a single thought. Nope, no skins. Not yet at least, but I will be able to get the retro X-Men uniform. That is old style Japanese right there. Sai, a wandering warrior in feudal Japan, the telepathic ninja known as Sai has devoted herself to striking down ancient demons and monsters. With her wolf Logan by her side, Psylocke won't rest until all yokai have fallen by her psychic blade. Sai was ripped from her reality by the time stream entanglement and put on display by the Collector. Alongside newfound allies, she escaped her cage and learned that other familiar warriors might still be out there. Her new quest is to gather those heroes, end this conflict, and return home. Acanti Tales. I don't know if that's how you say that. Acanti. Who knows? Then. Oh, if it's starting with then, is it meant to be like some kind of I don't know. Then Sai stood at the edge of the ancient forest and watched it burn. She had not wanted to leave so much destruction in her wake, but the stoic warrior knew all too well that when demons rise, sometimes there is no other option but to reduce the world to ash. For months, the people in the small village at the base of Mount Shiaru had been terrorized by a horde of insect-like demons that skittered through their city at night, stealing away innocent villagers. An elder of the village had heard the tale of Sai's triumph against Orochi and thought that if anyone could bring these demons to justice, it would be her. Sai soon proved that she lived up to the legends, locating the hive of this strange insect brood in a cave at the top of the mountain. She sent in her faithful companion, the wolf named Logan, to lure them out. When the beast emerged, Sai was waiting, psionic swords drawn and at the ready. At first, she held her own against the creatures, dispatching them with sharp blades and bursts of psychic energy. But it wasn't long before she found herself overwhelmed by the sheer number of demons. They clambered up the trees around her, ready to strike from above with their poison-tipped tails. Are they like scorpions? She had only one choice. Reaching in her satchel, she pulled out a handful of fireworks given to her by a friend, Juju. From another pouch on the belt, she removed a small piece of flint that she often used to light campfires around her travels. Sai set the fireworks on top of the flint and raised her sword high as the beast descended upon her. With a powerful strike of her sword, The flint sparked and the fireworks ignited. Psy ducked for cover behind a thick tree trunk as the barrage of explosions erupted, sending blazing broodlings scattering in every direction. As the mountain forest became a raging inferno, Psy entered the cave and found the queen of these strange demons. It took every ounce of skill and training to avoid becoming the hideous creature's next victim. But before long, Psy got close enough to plunge her psionic sword into the queen's black heart. As she did, she could feel the searing pain of every insect connected to the demon's hive mind. It overloaded Psy's senses, leaving her on the brink of collapse as she staggered back out of the cave. Logan came to her aid once again, dragging Psy just beyond the border of the burning forest and licking her wounds until she regained her strength and her senses. It had been a brutal battle, but it was yet another Psy had won. The fewer demons in the world, the better. She reached beside her and gently scratched the head of her loyal companion. Logan had stayed by her side through so many encounters against yokai and oni of all shapes and sizes. Without ever opening her mouth, Psy whispered straight into Logan's mind. "Good boy," she said. "Now come. We have a prize to claim." She pulled her round sedge hat up onto her head, covering her purple hair, as she began to walk away from the flaming trees and back toward the village at the base of Mount Shaiaru. As they got closer to the village, Logan sniffed at the air frantically and began to growl. "What's the matter, friend?" Psy asked, but mere moments later, she had had her answer. A strange doorway opened directly in front of her, as if out of thin air, and a mysterious figure was about to cross through the other side. Psy went to reach for her sword, but before she could draw the blade, she felt a pain surge through her body unlike any she had ever experienced before. It was as if she had been hit by Hakamaru himself. Perhaps the demons have finally gotten their revenge, she thought to herself. It was only a matter of time. Logan howled as everything faded black. "Now." "What's on your mind?" Mantis asked Psy. Psy knew full well that the strange woman named Mantis had mental abilities similar to her own. She could have easily read Psy's mind if she had wished. However, Mantis genuinely seemed to want to respect her new friend's boundaries. Psy appreciated that. "Where I came from," said Psy, "and where we are going." Much time had passed since that fateful day on Mount Shaiaru. More time Psy cared to remember. When she awoke, she had found herself trapped inside of a heavily reinforced enclosure, part of a display in a strange alien menagerie. Its benefactor, an elder of the universe known as the Collector, had gathered countless species from across space and time so that his patrons can stare at rare and deadly creatures from the safety of the other side of the glass. Psy wanted nothing more than to be free, to find her way back home to her own world, to Logan. And she would finally have her chance when her fellow captive, Mantis, staged an escape attempt. Along with Mantis and another strange creature, an unusually cute quadrupedal shark named Jeff. Psy fought her way through the Collector's theme park to a vessel that was able to sail through the stars. She had no idea where she was now, or how to get back home. But at least she was free of her captor's clutches. Or so she thought. Jeff shouted as he ran into the cockpit of the vessel and nudged Mantis with his blunt nose. "What is it, Jeff?" Mantis asked as Jeff turned and darted toward the back of the ship again. "I think he wants us to follow him," Psy said as she started to realize how much Jeff reminded her of Logan. Jeff led Psy and Mantis to the rear of the spacecraft and jumped up on a console so that he could see out of the large viewport. He started motioning frantically with one of his front feet, pointing out of the window. "I don't see anything," Psy said, as she gazed into the dark void of space. There was nothing behind them but darkness and a bit of debris. "What, no stars? No nebula?" "I don't think it's what he saw," Mantis said, her hand placed against her temple and closing her eyes. "It's what he felt. Someone is following us." Psy took a moment to focus her mind, and she felt it too. Then she heard it inside of her head. The chatter of alien voices growing ever closer. She did not understand how anything could soar through space, but if she and her companions had managed to do it so easily, perhaps others could do the same without being detected. Just then, a massive ship materialized behind them, 10 times larger than the small craft they had stolen. On its hull was the same marking that Psy had seen through the theme park that she had just escaped, the crest of the Collector. Mantis raced back to the ship's cockpit and grabbed a hold of the throttle with one hand. With the other, she began frantically pressing buttons. Jeff mewed with excitement. "I learned this trick from Peter Quill," Mantis said, as their tiny ship lunged forward, reaching its top speed in nanoseconds. "Don't tell him I stole it." I do not even know who that is," Psy reminded Mantis. "Well, I hope you get to meet him," Mantis said. "If we manage to survive this." Mantis pushed their small vessel beyond its limits, but the Collector's battleship somehow managed to keep up with its pace. Pulling sharply on the ship's yoke, Mantis diverted the craft into a belt of floating debris, narrowly dodging giant rocks and the scrap from other ships that weren't fortunate enough to have such a deft navigator at their helm. Emerging on the other side of the asteroid field, Psy was caught off guard by what she saw ahead of them. Not the Collector's battleship, but something nearly as large. And it was alive. "Yokai," Psy whispered under her breath as she studied the enormous whale-like creature floating in front of them. "No," Mantis replied. "Acanti." Mantis touched Psy's shoulder, and the warrior's mind was flooded with images of spectacular space whales, traveling in pods and singing rapturous songs that echoed through the cosmos. Mantis had clearly encountered these majestic creatures before during her travels with the Guardians of the Galaxy, and now she was sharing all of her experiences with Psy via telepathy. But this lone Acanti was nothing like the ones in Mantis's mind. It did not sing in joy, but rather it wailed in pain. Even Jeff could hardly bear to hear the beast's mournful cries. Mantis reached out to the Acanti with her powers, letting it know she was a friend of its kind, and that she was in danger. She begged the creature for its help, and promised to return the favor in any way she could. The Acanti seemed to understand, opening its massive maw and allowing the tiny ship to fly inside. As they took safe harbor inside the mouth of the Acanti, Psy felt something strangely familiar. A skittering sensation in the back of her mind, something she hadn't felt since her time on Mount Shiaru. I know what is ailing this creature, Psy said. Really? Mantis asked. What could possibly bring an Acanti so much sorrow? Demons, Psy replied. This time, it was Psy who opened her mind's eye for Mantis to peer into. Mantis caught glimpses of Psy's epic battle against the insect-like monsters in her home reality, their teeth gnashing as they clawed and slashed at the seasoned warrior. Those aren't demons, Mantis said, recognizing the images in her friend's mind. They're aliens, a nasty race of parasites that call themselves the Brood. Well, they picked one hell of a cave to make their home, Psy mused as she looked out of the craft at the interior of the Acanti's cavernous gullet. Mantis grabbed a breathing mask off from the wall of the ship and placed it over her face. She handed the others to both Psy and Jeff. The Brood are a particular vicious race, Mantis said as she walked toward the ship's airlock. How did you defeat them in your world? With fire, Psy said, but that's not an option here. Agreed, Mantis said. Even if we did have oxygen to burn, I highly doubt the Acanti would be thrilled if we set its insides ablaze. Mrr, Jeff gurgled hopefully as he followed his two humanoid companions off the ship and into the Acanti's craw. No, Jeff, Mantis said. I'm sorry to say it, but I don't think we can just talk it out with the Brood. Perhaps we can, Psy said. The last time I encountered these creatures, I was able to momentarily connect with their hive mind. I see where you're going with this, Mantis said, but we need to find the Brood Queen if we want this to work. Brr, Jeff said, racing down the Acanti's tongue and off into the distance. Mantis and Psy looked at each other and shrugged before turning to chase after their finned friend. As they traveled further into the dark depths of the Acanti's throat, the three heroes found themselves facing off against an ever-increasing number of brood hatchlings. Psy swung her swords with keen precision. Jeff gnashed his teeth and swung his tail, and Mantis fought bare-handed with a fury that her companions had not yet witnessed. One after another, the alien parasites fell, but more always seemed to take their place. No wonder the Acanti was in so much distress, Mantis thought, loud enough for her companions to hear. Finally, they reached the Acanti's stomach, where they found the Brood Queen waiting. While Mantis and Jeff fended off more hatchlings, Psy dodged and weaved through the aggressive alien army as she made her way toward the mighty mistress. When she arrived, she readied a blade of pure psionic energy. Instead of piercing the Brood Queen's heart, like she had done on Mount Shyaru, she plunged the psychic sword straight into her mind. There was something Psy wanted the Queen to see. No, to feel. With her free hand, Psy touched the inner wall of the Acanti's stomach. Acting as a conduit between the creatures, she transferred the Acanti's pain and sorrow into the Brood Queen's insect brain, sending waves of raw emotion rippling across the alien hive mind. It was too much for the Magalent monarch and her minions to handle. The remaining broods spread their wings and took flight, following their queen back up the Acanti's throat. The Acanti opened its jaws just wide enough for the brood to make their escape into the void outside. The beast let out a triumphant cry that echoed through its insides as its unwanted guest finally disappeared into deep space. After the battle, Mantis communed with the Acanti, asking it to provide them a safe ride back to the intergalactic empire of Wakanda. The colossal creature gladly obliged, as a way of showing thanks for ridding it of its parasite problem. Along the way, Jeff even gave the Acanti a nice, thorough dental cleaning as a sign of mutual respect. Before they can reach Wakandan space, however, Mantis intercepted a distress call from her fellow Guardians of the Galaxy. Star-Lord, Rocket, and Groot. Their ship had crashed on the alien world called Clintar, home to a species almost as parasitic as the Brood. Mantis knew where she had to go next, and it wasn't Wakanda. Sai and Jeff were prepared to join Mantis on the next leg of her journey, when Sai suddenly heard a new cry echoing in her head. A powerful voice, unlike any she had ever heard before. Strange, but so familiar. It uttered 4 simple words. "To me, my X-Men." Though she did not know what the words meant, she knew that she would have no choice but to answer the call. As images of a living island on the other side of the universe filled her mind, Sai could feel in her soul that this mysterious place was home to others just like her, and it might finally be the key to getting her back home again. Jeff nuzzled up against Sai's leg and let out a gentle purr. She had not expected to grow fond of this strange little creature, but battle did have a way of making strange allies. She reached down and gently rubbed her hand along the rubbery skin on top of Jeff's head. "Good boy," she said, whispering directly into his mind. "Now come with me. It's time we finally find the freedom we deserve." Okay then. That was I mean, we went through Jeff and Mantis's story. I was wondering like how it was going to pick up with Psylocke, but now we know the full story, at least on how Psylocke ended up at the Collector's Park, and that is a portal just opened up and she was just ambushed by someone working for him. And now we know, and we now know that Mantis picked up on where Quill and Groot and Rocket are, but we don't know how they're doing on Clintar, but we'll find out soon. And likewise, Psylocke picked up on hearing someone saying, "To me, my X-Men," probably referring to Magneto or maybe Storm. So we'll possibly get a follow-up on Psylocke trying to get to Krakoa. Oh, speaking of which, so the thing interesting is Psylocke here. This particular version of Psylocke is known as Psy. And traditionally, if you know Psylocke, you either know one of the 2 versions of her. You either know Betsy Braddock, or you know Kawanin. Psy is just a version from the Ultimate Universe. Her story is that in her little series, Demon Days X-Men, it's that she lives in feudal Japan and just, goes wandering around with a wolf named Logan and takes on various yokai that some of them are meant to be based on other Marvel characters. And it's unique because, again, I only know Psylocke at best as, Betsy Braddock. Although, I also do know a little bit of Kawanin, but Betsy is the one I know the most. Anyway, that will do for this episode of Marvel Rivals. Join me next time as we read Rocket Raccoon's lore story. We're going to finally get back with the Guardians of the Galaxy and see how they're holding out. So that is it, and I will see you guys next time.